We have two large concerns about the current state of Auburn's roster, and they both have to do with the trenches.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. And thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend. We're going to try something new here on the show. Are these things important or are they interesting? But let's open today's show up. We each have a glaring concern about the current state of Auburn's roster. And yes, there's guys that will still be added, whether it'll be in time for spring or not, or after spring. There will still be additions to this roster and rosters all across college football. Darrell, I'm going to start off with the pass rush. I think questions about the pass rush are going to be a big talking point, I think, throughout spring. Now, a good thing with this is we've kind of spent off season since DJ Durkin has been here expressing concern about the defensive line, and it does always seem to work itself out. But the bodies are typically there, and there's usually, multiple stacked classes where you're like, okay, you can see how these guys fit in. At edge, with the addition of Deshaun Womack from Ole Miss, he was kind of a role player for them. He was like their number 2, number 3 edge guy, depending on what part of the season you look at. They're obviously hoping Jared Smith takes that step forward. I think he's going to be your main guy. If he doesn't take that step forward, I think it would be very bad for Auburn's defense as a whole, especially the pass rush. And then I think there's questions about some of the younger guys in the defensive line room. Can they take that step? The bodies are there. The potential is there. There's just a lot of assumptions of, okay, who can take that step to help generate pressure for Auburn without them having to blitz a ton in 2026?
That's the key, because you have concerns about the pass rush, but I think your concerns are a lot more honed in and customized on pass rush from the defensive line. Right. And so you don't want to have to bring linebackers and safeties and all that. I would say this, if it's a personnel thing at the time of this recording, we don't know yet, but there is still a possibility of Chris Murray returning. And if he does, that's a huge get. That's a huge help for Auburn's pass rush because I think he had 4 or 5 sacks. To me, it's a genuine founded concern, because you don't want quarterbacks sitting back there in this league waiting and having time to pick apart your secondary. And this has a potential to be, I think, a good secondary. So, to me, everything on defense starts with being able to rush the quarterback. And that could be a concern. But I think the reason why it's not as high up on my list, although it is a concern, is because I think you can be creative and bring pressure elsewhere. I know it exposes the back end and that kind of thing, but a pass rush is a pass rush is a pass rush if you find ways to get to the quarterback quick enough before he gets the ball off.
Yeah, we've seen Demarcus Riddick be effective when they've sent him. Same with Xavier Atkins. I mean, his win rate on pass rushing situations last year was pretty respectable. It's one of the best on the team. So is that how they choose to use some of those guys? Possibly. And look, I wouldn't mind seeing Demarcus Riddick at edge some. We saw him do that a little bit, line up to the end of the line of scrimmage his freshman year. And then we're like, okay, he's moving to linebacker. His role's going to change. What they're asking him to do is different. And we didn't see a ton of them last year, or as much of them. And a lot of that had to do with injury. I don't think it was performance. But Demarcus Riddick, certainly a name to watch. I mean, he could be the key to all this. I mean, we talk about how important Jared Smith is. Demarcus Riddick and his use and versatility, he could be one of the more important guys on this defense.
Yeah, I think, a little bit more of a deep dive of an explanation for me would be, I would prefer not to see Jared Smith as a true edge. I would like to see him play the Keldrick Falk role from last year.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, be like a defensive end. And then the edge would be like what Kerryon Crawford was. Maybe that's Womack, or maybe if Murray comes back. So you can generate a ton of pass rush from that defensive end spot. Obviously, you get to the quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, there's Riddick is the guy that's such a wild card to mention because his freshman year, he started really becoming effective rushing the quarterback, closing on the quarterback. They simplified things for him and basically said, just go get him. And if he can fill that role for Auburn this upcoming year and you bring him off the edge as a linebacker, that would be big, I think.
Your biggest concern for this roster is what?
Offensive line. And I know that Auburn's done a great job going out and getting a bunch of bodies.
Yeah.
Guys with experience. Here's my concern. Just because you have quantity, we need to make sure there's quality there. And I'm not saying there's not. We just don't know.
Yeah.
Second thing is offensive line is one of the position groups in the rooms that you have to have chemistry, you have to gel, and you have to have cohesiveness. It's a lot of moving parts, Zach, to throw together and make 5 as an interchangeable one working unit. I like the depth. I do like the bodies. I like the number. But where are the 5 going to come from? They're going to be your best 5. And when you get them on the field together, how fast is it going to take them to merge together, to gel? Because I think it's important. You cannot afford to have miscommunication, missed assignments. So that's my biggest concern. It's not the quantity or the depth, but your starters, how fast is it going to take them to become a cohesive unit? Because it obviously affects running game and protecting Brown.
Yeah. I do think the scheme this year will be more friendly in helping put offensive linemen in situations to succeed than what we saw last year. I got a lot of hate or a lot of pushback. I don't want to be dramatic. A lot of pushback last year for kind of being defensive of the offensive line, both as a unit and as individual players. And a big reason for that was I don't think there were a lot of offensive linemen who could really benefit from the scheme that they were playing in last year. I do think this is a scheme that will benefit the offensive line. I think they'll have to think less. I think there'll be less put on them. And I also think they're going to be able to trust that the ball is going to get out quicker, and which is going to make everybody's job easier because there's a track record at this point with a lot of the guys that will be handling the football or catching the football or receiving the football in whatever way. So I'm with you. I do think the bodies are there. I wish there was this quote unquote can't miss guy that was added, but we thought we've had that the last few years and it hasn't mattered. So who knows what the proper perspective on bringing in a massive tackle is even supposed to be. I like Joe Simmons a lot from JMU. I like him a ton. Stanton, Ramil, I've got mixed opinions on. It makes sense. I could see it. And I think the addition of Ramil makes even more sense after they've brought in Jacob Strand and Jack Layer. And even TJ Hedrick from Ole Miss. He hadn't played yet, but he was a sought after guy coming out of high school at tackle. So to me, I think I've said this before, like, I think the answer is there. They just got to find it. I think they've done enough from a quantity standpoint where the answer is there. They've just got to mix and match and figure out which 5, maybe not even necessarily who's the best 5, but who's the best 5 together, as you were kind of alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the sum of the parts. I think you mentioned something that's really important is scheme. Look how much better the offensive line played when Daniels became quarterback and Nix started calling plays. Ball got out quicker. He stayed upright. They ran the ball effectively. You can scheme your way out of stuff, and I think this is great. This is the part that I'm very encouraged by, is that all these cats are on campus, and you're going to go through spring, and you're going to have 2 sessions of practice, spring and fall, to determine who your 5 are and allow them to gain some chemistry and some continuity.
And you can actually run spring now based off of the actual information you get. You don't have to make everybody feel like they have a chance to be a starter because you don't have to worry about them leaving after spring. I think that's big. I did a show on that a little bit yesterday if you guys want to check that out. All right, so are these things interesting or are they actually important? I've got a few things I want to read about the roster and the offseason. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and get on with your day. Nobody likes doing taxes. Nobody likes doing taxes. And TurboTax makes it so easy, so simple to do. I mean, it feels like it almost just looms over you for a few months until you actually just sit down and do it. TurboTax can help you get there. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If our TurboTax expert did not file your taxes last year, just make sure you file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Something that my favorite coach in the NFL does, Mike Vrabel. He started putting out this message of, some things are important, some things are just interesting. I actually think that's useful for real life. Not that anyone asks. It's like, okay, what we're being upset about, is it actually important or is it just interesting? So, Darrell, is this important or just interesting? Auburn's two backup quarterbacks, Tristan Tia, Lachlan Hewlett, are both redshirt freshmen with little to no playing time. I'm going to say that this is important, and it's nothing against Byron Brown. I just think that in today's SEC, most of the time there's a situation where you need a number 2 quarterback, and you just kind of hope that the need for them is for a limited time. Maybe the last quarter of a game, and you hope it's not super close because your starter's banged up and you hope that they're good the next week. I'm going to say it's important just because the odds are, the statistics say that there's going to be a stretch of time where either Tristan Tia or Lachlan Hewlett's number will be called.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm going to go with interesting because I think there's such a bevy of issues and things that Auburn has to address that is so much more important than the backup quarterback position, with starting lineups, with core players returning, that this falls way down on the list of priorities for me. And I happen to like Tia a lot. I think at least he's played a couple of games. I get it, limited experience, but I like him a lot, his potential, and he does have a little bit of game experience. So when we start getting to the point where we're worrying about the backup quarterback, when I think there's a litany of other issues that are so much more important and on the forefront. Yeah. Not that it's not important, it just comes down on list of priorities for me.
You also get the feeling with Tia coming in, that seemed to be pretty close to done as soon as he stepped foot on campus. I just kind of wonder, I don't want to say guarantees or promises, but I do wonder what that negotiation looked like. Sure, I'm sure he was taken care of from an NIL standpoint, but we have another guy, Lachlan Hewlett, same eligibility situation. They're both redshirt freshmen going into the spring. Kind of wonder, hey, Tia, you've got a chance to be the guy after Byram. I just wonder if that conversation was had or not. And if that case, I think that makes it even more important.
Well, I want you to consider that most people would probably feel more comfortable and might move the needle on this if Deuce was still here.
Yes.
But yet Deuce played in half as many games as Tia did. I mean, he's unproven. Yeah. Ceiling, potential, 5-star versus a 4-star. Tia played in 2 games. Deuce played in 1. I think Tia actually played against Power 4 opponents too.
Deuce played in 2, started in 1.
Yeah, that's right. He played in that Ball State game way late, that last quarter.
It did not look good, by the way.
No, so I think
also, Ball is not a state.
Correct. So even if he was here, I think people would have this perception that, I feel better about the quarterback room. Deuce is backing up, but yet he's played less than the guy they brought in. And so we need to just keep that in perspective. That's probably another reason why it's interesting and not as earth-shattering important for me.
It's a great point on the Deuce experience thing compared to Tia.
I want to say this too. I got to say this when I preface this. I don't want any of this to sound dismissive on my part. I am at the point in my life following Auburn football that I think everything's important. It's the degree of importance that I'm expressing. Okay. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Everything is important to a certain extent. You can't say, backup quarterback. So is it something we should stress over, or is it something that's how I'm kind of gauging this?
Yeah, sure.
From a scale standpoint. I don't want to come off, flippant going, that's not important. No, everything's important when you not had a winning season.
Or if you think it's interesting.
Exactly.
That's fine too. Things that are interesting are worth discussing too.
Correct.
All right. Auburn is probably going to start at least 4 portal guys on the offensive line. It could be 5, depending on how they handle Kel Ellis and Cole Skinner. I'm going to say this is interesting.
Love it. I'm going to say this is important, especially with what I said about my biggest concern. Offensive line to me is the most important this year, because they've addressed the quarterback position. I think, knocked it out of the park. It's the most important position group right now going into the spring, and it's a question mark. So it's important. And if they don't play well, Byron Brown, the running backs, and the receivers' effectiveness take a tremendous hit. So to me, it's extremely important.
I was worried we were going to agree on all these. So that's great. Yeah, I think to me, I don't really care how they got the offensive linemen. I don't care if it's guys that they retain and, let's pretend like Ty Buster and Jacoby Ward were maybe a year older or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about the process of them being portal guys. I just think a lot of this has a chance to be. I think a lot of these guys are going to benefit from the scheme at Auburn. I really believe that. And that's nothing against them. That's a good thing. You want good players and good scheme, and that's how you get great execution. And that's kind of what I hope happens.
If that happens, how important is that?
I think it's important. I guess I'm focusing on the starting 4 portal guys at offensive line. Yeah. Like I don't care that I'm emphasizing the portal additions. And I guess I don't care that they're from the portal.
Yeah, I think it's important because it's just a question mark for me. It's an unknown, and the cohesiveness of it.
And a reset in culture, right?
Yes. So that's why.
I mean, how many times did we get upset with penalties and there was just no ramifications for jumping off
the field. Did not come off the field 3, 4, 5 times. Killed drives, moved you out of field goal range. Turnovers happened right after it and did not come off the field. No accountability. That drove me nuts.
Yeah, and it sounded like there were claims where it's like, if you do that, you're going to take you out. Then he didn't. He didn't take him out.
It was audibly heard on a microphone. And it didn't.
That's not good.
No.
That's not good. All right. I got a few more. Is this important or interesting? Mm-hmm. Auburn has 1 senior on the interior defensive line. Of course, that is Cody Sigler.
Interesting.
Wow. We're going to disagree on all these. That's awesome. I think it's important.
I think the talent level of the sophomores and juniors is pretty good. And if you can play, you can play. And I think I'm not concerned about that. I think that sometimes in the past, Auburn chose to play upperclassmen based upon how long they were there and familiarity and that kind of thing, and it wasn't effective. You went 5 and 7 with them. So if it's young guys that are sophomores and they are talented, then it becomes just interesting to me.
I just wish some of the guys would have played more. And I want to be clear. I think the world of these sophomore defensive linemen. And I'm going to be honest, like, it feels like Jordan Crawford played more than 40 snaps last year. Like, it feels that way to me. It feels like Darian Smith played more than 86 snaps last year. It feels like Malik Autry played more than 86 snaps last year. But that's just not what happened. And so I guess my biggest question with all of this is we're making a bunch of assumptions here. We're making a bunch of assumptions for a lot of the true sophomores, which is the core of this team and especially the core of this position. And then Buddy Mathis played a lot early for LSU against Clemson in the opener. And then he was a role player for LSU. And that's what all these guys were. They were role players on the defensive line, either at Auburn or at LSU. We're talking about the true sophomores. And I think there's strong assumptions that they're going to take that step forward, but them taking that step forward, I think, is super, super important.
Yeah, it is. It is. I feel pretty comfortable that they are going to, and that there's enough numbers there now that you're going to hit on some. The whole odds game, and you're going to hit on a few with as many as you brought in. And defensive line is different than the offensive line with the cohesiveness and a chemistry standpoint. So, and again, there could be a surprise here and there of someone returning that helps solidify that as well. That might be granted another year. We don't know. It's still up in the air right now.
Would be huge. And also just the presence of Xavier Atkins behind them. Does that change blocking schemes? Do you focus more on getting guards at the next level? And maybe some of these interior D linemen, get chipped less because of that. I don't think that's out of the question as well. So the next one is about the wide receiver room. I think we're going to disagree on this one too. That's next, right here on Locked on Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. Want to encourage you to check out, if you're an everydayer and you made it this far into the show, we appreciate you. Take your everydayerness to the next level, if you will, if that's a word, by joining the Everydayer Club. Just go to lockedonauburn.supercast.com. There's also links in the episode description, whether you're watching on YouTube or tuning in on audio. You get access to an ad-free audio feed, so no ads. And then, of course, you also get access to an Everydayer exclusive Discord, and that's across the entire network. So kind of a lot of cool conversations happening there. So check that out. Reach out if you have any questions on that. Is this important or interesting, Darrell? No one among Auburn's wide receivers have like true P4 playing experience.
It's interesting.
Oh, okay. We agree on this one. I didn't think we would.
I just think they're so talented, and they've done such a good job against whoever was put in front of them to play that I think they're going to get it done. And I get it. You haven't played in the SEC, but man, I just think there's a template and a blueprint for what we just saw with Indiana and the Becker kid and people like that kids can just emerge. They get good coaching. They get in a proper culture with a quarterback that believes in them, that can throw them the ball, and they can go and obviously raise the bar. And I think Auburn has some dudes that you cannot deny the talents, and it's going to pay off regardless of who they were playing against as far as college football level is concerned.
Yeah. I'm totally okay with it too. I know there were a few P4 guys they were looking at, and I guess that just didn't work, but that's fine. I'm with you. I think it's interesting. The path to playing time at running back seems to be pretty tough for some of the younger running backs. Alvin Henderson, obviously. Omar Mabson, is he in that conversation because of Washington and Davenport and Cobb? Is that important or interesting?
Interesting. Because, again, you're talking about your fourth and fifth string running backs. And when you get to that point, how crucial really is it? I mean, I think Mabson's going to play. I think Mabson will, just my opinion, I think he'll play as much or more than Davenport. Now, I know people that argue and want to push back on that because Golesh was Davenport's coach, but I just think Mabson really has acquitted himself.
Yeah, and we can do this. We can do this sometime soon, Darrell, but the market share of carries for running back, it definitely varies year by year with what Golesh has done. There's been years where it was primarily one guy. There's been years where it was primarily two guys, and then a big drop off. There's been years where it was several guys, and then, or it was like one guy, then like 2A, 2B that was pretty close, and then a pretty big drop off. So there's been different carry allotments based on personnel, which leads me to think that that's not totally out of the question for, regard Cobb and Washington, if they're 1A and 1B. And then if Davenport and Mabson are 2A and 2B, I think there's some sort of a precedent for that based off of what he did at South Florida.
Yeah, and I think the early indications, the early returns are that you're going to see two backs, I think, carry most of the load. But within those two backs, it's going to be more equitable than it was last year. I think Cobb's carries are going to go down as far as the greater whole of how many carries totally that Auburn gets because of Washington. And I think that's a good thing, and I think that's very healthy for Auburn.
I do too. And I like the different styles too. I don't understand why people get multiple running backs that are all the same. And I think Cobb, Washington, and Mabson are all very different backs. Davenport's kind of different too. Davenport's kind of a mixture of the other three, which is good. I think it's a defense that makes you think like, okay, who's standing next to Byram? What can they do in these situations? The more you make defenders think at the college level, or really any level of college football or any level of football, that's a good thing. So cool. Awesome. So we agreed on, we disagreed on the first few and agreed on the second few. So let us know what y'all think of that segment. I don't know. Just wanted to try something different. What'd you think of it?
I liked it. And I liked, we didn't go over. I had no idea what the questions were going to be, which makes for a truly, raw, unrehearsed response. And I like that. That
Raw
kind of,
Dap is the best Dap.
there you go. Unrehearsed, definitely.
Yep. Purely raw. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
I'm with you 2 days a week, typically Wednesdays and Fridays, Barncast, Sunday nights live. And then obviously during basketball games, we go live. I jump in at halftime with you guys on the Barncast, but then live, you and I go over to this channel and do a little reaction show.
Yep. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.